Denim is in demand at Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston. Get cash on the spot for everything denim. Bring in your trendy and classic styles of gently used name brand denim. Get paid for your denim shorts, skirts, jackets, jeans, and more. We're looking for denim that is blue, black, or a bold color, and jeans in styles like mom jeans, bootcut, baggy, flared, and ripped. We want everything denim. Sell your denim for cash at Plato's Closet today. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
No music, no intro. Another episode of hashtag Saints Twitter podcast. Ryan and I wanted to get Katherine on the pod of the Athletic. We know that the sky's falling in Saints Twitter after the debacle on Monday Night Football. So we wanted to get her on to just, talk people off the ledge, maybe push people off the ledge. I don't really care at this point. Like, it's just entertainment to me. So with that said, Katherine, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, a little tired at 9:30, which we've already discussed. I'm turning into an old person, but I'm doing great. I'm just people's therapist this week. Like, it's all gonna be okay. This team is gonna be probably fine.
Probably fine. Love it.
But I feel like I'm gonna go out on a limb and be like, they're gonna be fine, and then Sunday night something happens, and then everyone's gonna ask me why I was like trying to talk them off the ledge. But I do feel like they'll be fine. But we'll see in about 3 days.
We will, and against a really good opponent. But I wanted to talk about Maskgate that happened. So you're at the Big Roomba in Vegas, and first time being in brand new stadium. So obviously you have to christen it with a selfie, which is completely understandable. And some fucking jackass, this is the hashtag Saints Twitter podcast, so we can say that. Some fucking jackass on Twitter is like, "Oh, mass selfies are dumb." Blah, blah, blah. Like, shut up. Just stop. Just stop.
Yeah, like, just go away. I forgot my initial response was going to be something like, well, it's better than having some unmasked person like sneeze in my face. Or it was actually something way more smart ass than that, and probably way more clever in my head. But I was just like, dude, go away. Like, if I want to take a picture in a mask and not like breathe COVID all over people, I'm going to do so.
And the fact is, everyone has like at least one mask selfie.
Well, yeah, this is true. Like, at least it's not like my Twitter profile picture. Okay, I've like posted like literally. Well, actually, I was gonna say literally one, and that's not true. But like, come on, man. Yeah, I guarantee you that person is like probably has some crazy tweets like masks like give you cancer or something.
For sure.
I don't know. I think I blocked him.
Yes, there it is. I love it.
I probably did. This is shocking, but I am way less of a smartass than I used to be. Like, I used to be way more snarky, and I commented, like, I always had to shoot back, and now I just pick my spots. Like, you just wait a few weeks and then just deliver snarky comment towards someone and then just walk away and let everyone else take care of it.
So you're like Andres' Pete, good football games. Like, you pick your spots when you want to have them.
Wait, what's the hashtag now? Like,
which
hate
one?
Or something? I don't know. Some of them I probably don't want to know, especially after Monday night. Oh man.
So Ryan and I had like a very rapid reaction pod after Monday Night Football, but we wanted to get your perspective in terms of what your thoughts were from that game and just going forward.
Yeah, it was weird. I really did think after the way they started that they were going to be totally fine. I mean, even the offense, like, yeah, they didn't score right away or they didn't score a touchdown, but I was encouraged. Like, okay, they're moving the ball. Like, it looks better than they looked last week. I mean, I don't know where the wheels fell off. That was really weird to me how that game changed so much. But it's kind of a couple of the problems we've identified real off season, really. Like, it could be a big problem and it might not be, but I've said all along the Saints are taking a gamble by I guess, relying on a lot of players that are older, and they're either going to play like they did last year or they're going to start having a serious decline, and that could impact what happens this season. And obviously, you know who I'm talking about. I mean, Brees is one, Malcolm Jenkins. I say Jared Cook because of his age, but I mean, he's played fine. And then Sanders too. I mean, it's just all these players that they could be great, but if they start declining, then they could get in trouble. And so when you saw how Brees and Malcolm Jenkins played, you're kind of like, okay, well, it's just one game. Is it a trend or is it just kind of an anomaly? So I was surprised, thought they would beat the Raiders, but I also do think that it's just one of those games where things just started to go wrong, and they can certainly bounce back from it this week. And I think they will.
Yeah. Like I kept tweeting and said on the last podcast that, just the Saints under Sean Payton have not been great in September. They haven't started seasons really fast. Their record is like about 500 in September since Sean Payton's been here. So, I mean, you could just think back to just years prior. I mean, they just have not started the season great. They've either started 0-2 or 1-1 or sometimes 0-3 or 0-4. So it's not like we haven't seen this before, but I guess just be under the cloud of like that bad playoff game last year, questions about Drew Brees with his age and arm strength, and then you kind of have a poor offensive performance last week against the Bucks, and then this week it's like a little better, but you still see a lot of those same issues. And this time, like last week, the national media was kind of like, oh, okay, we'll see. But this week, like they are on Brees' ass. Like they like, he is washed. This is it. He's declining. This is Peyton Manning 2015.
Yeah.
He's done. He's cooked. But at the same time, as a fan, it's like you might be right. Like you just don't know. You just don't know with Brees. You just don't. So I mean, everybody has their analysis. Some say, hey, it's just timing and anticipation that he needs to get. It's just going to take some time to get together, or his arm strength, or what's wrong with his accuracy? Is it the offensive line? Is it? Nobody really knows, and I guess we just got to see. But like, what are your feeling? Like, what's your gut feeling about all of this? Is it just kind of wait and see?
First of all, it's right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, is it kind of wait and see, or are you kind of feeling it like, yeah, I think he might be washed up? You don't have to say washed up if you don't.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the term washed up. I was like talking about it with someone the other day. Like, it just seems so like, I don't even know how to put it. So dismissive of great athletes.
Yeah.
Just, well, they had this great 20-year career, but they're washed now, so they're done. I don't know. I never thought about it until this year, and I just thought, oh, that's kind of just – I don't know if I like that term. It seems to not really put into words how good this player, Brees or whoever else was for so long. But I think it's interesting because maybe a few years ago this wouldn't have been acknowledged so much because we didn't have quarterbacks play into their 40s like we do now. But when we got Peyton Manning and Brett Favre playing into their 40s, they both had this awesome year and everything was fine. And then their performances took a total nosedive. It wasn't subtle. They were good and then they were kind of awful. I mean, that's really how fast it happened. And so I think now people have that in their heads and they see Brees and they're automatically thinking, oh my God, he's another Peyton Manning. I mean, this is what's happening to him. And the truth is, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say after 2 weeks. So I'm kind of hesitant to say, oh, this is it for him. But I do think that it's very obvious he hasn't looked good. And I don't know what that reason is. I don't know if I think part of it is the offensive line, and we've talked about that since last January. I think that he can't move around like he used to. Not that it was ever, his specialty. But
he was very mobile inside the pocket. Yeah.
He didn't look so old trying to move around the pocket. So and there's a reason the Saints went out and said, we need to fix the interior of the offensive line. Like, this is a very big problem because our quarterback is not, he's not mobile. That's a problem. And so I don't know if he feels the pressure and that's causing him to make these bad throws, because that's not Brees. He was never a bad decision maker. So to see some of these passes, it's just it's head scratching because it's not who he is. But also, if we're so worried about the arm strength, well, arm strength doesn't make you throw a pass directly to a linebacker. I mean, that's a mistake. That's seeing something that wasn't there. That's not, he's 41 and he can't throw a ball 10 yards. I mean, so that's kind of why I'm willing to say, okay, well, let's see how he plays in week 3. Maybe it's just a matter of they really didn't have enough time together in training camp. And I know that's an excuse for everyone, but maybe it's true because, as you pointed out, the Saints don't often play that well to start the season. And I think Brees is not really ever at his best to start a season. I think he gets better as the season goes along. Yeah. And so Sunday, I really do think it's going to tell a lot. And it's fun. Again, it's funny that we're talking about this because I feel like I said last week, it's kind of, you can't really make a judgment about Brees when you don't have Michael Thomas and he's such a big part of the offense. And then you see him play like that and you kind of forget that and think, what's wrong with Brees? And it's almost like you've forgotten that this huge part of the offense isn't there. So maybe give them a week to adjust. But it's a valid concern for I 100% understand why people are freaking out and wondering what's going on.
You brought a good point when you brought up the offensive line and, the Saints drafting, interior guard with Ruiz to improve that, to basically replace Larry Warford, who they weren't happy with last season. And so a point that I've made a couple of times is that I think from a fan perspective, and also I'm sure from a team perspective too, but the fact that their rookie class has not given them much of anything. I know, both Bond and Ruiz were hurt, and missed some extended time in training camp. But, they have been practicing fully and have been active. And when you think of the offensive line and, you see like he's still being pressured more so than he typically is or has been. And so where do you think that comes from, I guess you could say, in terms of why are the rookies not being played? Is it injuries? Is it like what's that factor?
I think with Ruiz, he only came back the Wednesday before the game. And I think they just felt, hey, look, Nick Easton is doing okay. Like, he's serviceable. There's no need to rush this kid out, until we need him. And I don't know what that means for this week. I still think Nick Easton is going to start, but I think eventually Ruiz is going to be the starter. I know it'll be sooner rather than later, probably. So I don't think it's a indictment of him. I just thought, like, without that many snaps, relatively speaking, why rush it? And that's what I told another reporter when we were watching practice. I said, no way he starts. And he was asking me, well, why wouldn't he? It's enough time. And I disagreed. But I think maybe if they had been panicking about Nick Easton, they would have said, okay, he's got it. We're just going to throw him in there. But they didn't. Yeah. And then Bond, I think Bond is just kind of a luxury at this point. Honestly, I think that they could play him, but the way they've been running their defense, they don't really need him right now.
But I guess my counterpoint to that is, after a game where the pass rush was pretty much non-existent, like, I don't like, is he really a luxury at this point?
That's a good point. Yeah,
because they were not getting close to Derek Carr whatsoever. And granted, the Raiders do have a really good offensive line, but Bond's specialty coming out of college was being a really good pass rusher.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of it in terms of if they were going to use him like as a base linebacker. But you're right. So he was used. I'm trying to think. In nickel situations, he's a pass rusher. So they're in nickel so much, you would think that they would use him more. But maybe they were confident in their pass rushing plan going into that game, and so now they might be thinking, okay, we should try to change something up. I mean, so I could see it week 2 that they thought they would be fine, but
and to be fair, like they did sack Derek Carr like 3 times. Was that in the first quarter or the first half?
First
the
half.
pressure was
First
looking
half.
good. Yeah, the pressure was looking good early in the game, but then like just the way the offense, the Raiders played offense the rest of the game, the passes were coming out. Derek Carr was getting the ball out real quick, and it just wasn't there. And a lot of Saints fans were talking about like, where's Cam Jordan? Like Cam Jordan is on a milk carton right now. Where is he? And I haven't sat back and studied the all 22 or anything. I did see that they were giving him a lot of attention, but do you think? I guess the question of decline is on everybody. Like, do you think Cam Jordan is kind of getting into that age where he's getting into his 30s and maybe he isn't the every down pass rusher he used to be, or is it just one of those random things of football where you just don't know, you just got to let the season play out?
It's a valid question.
He looks as energetic as he always has.
Yeah. I don't see that with him. I mean, I guess you could say like the guy plays through everything and never takes games off. So yeah, he probably has more wear and tear than a lot of players at this point, but I don't think so. I mean, as you pointed out, I mean, the guy still has more energy than pretty much any football player I know. I mean, that doesn't mean it automatically translates to, hey, he's going to have a big game. But I just think it's one of those things where he's just weirdly in a rut, which is weird because it's the start of the season, but maybe slow start is better. I mean, I believe in Cam Jordan. Like, he's had games last year or stretches where he didn't have a sack, and I don't know if it probably didn't seem so glaring because the rest of the the rest of the defensive line was stepping up. But I think when you're the star and you're expected to be the star and you don't produce, everyone's just wondering what the heck is going on. I mean, especially with Cam's personality, when you make snarky comments about, Tampa Bay, which I found hilarious, but if you make those comments, everyone's going to draw their attention to you. And if you don't produce the next week, people are going to say, well, you spend your time talking and not producing, which I think is stupid, but that's just me. I'm like, you know what, you can say whatever you want. I mean, it's going to get there, but yeah, I don't know. It's different for every position. I feel like 31 at some positions are automatic. People say, well, you're on the tail end of your career. And then other positions, I don't think it matters as much. I mean, I feel like players are great pass rushers pretty well into their 30s, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought.
What is Latavius Murray's role on this team?
I was thinking about him today at practice. Like, I feel like I just think of the most random stuff at practice, and I was thinking, man, what did he do this week? I mean, because Kamara had such a big role. No, it was not even meant as an insult. I was just thinking.
Yeah, I mean that exactly. Like what is his role? Like I don't know.
And he had some good runs.
Yes, he usually does.
Yeah, he played well last week. I mean, maybe he was just so focused on Kamara. I just pulled up his stats.
I feel bad for him because they just forget about him. Were you there for that press conference with Traquan Smith? I think it was last week, and I think you guys were asking him about Kamara or the running game or whatever, and he was talking about Kamara, and he's like, "Yeah, we got Kamara and what's the other guy's name? Murray."
Oh, no.
Yeah, Murray.
I do not remember that.
He can't remember his own teammate.
You'd be surprised how often NFL players do that. Like, people think that they remember things way more than they actually do. And the same goes for coaches. Like, I've had so many players, especially with specialists. I mean, this is sad, but players a lot of times have no idea what the name of the kicker is or the long snapper. I'm like, who's that guy? What's his name?
That is absolutely wild to me.
It's I will say a few years back, the newly signed Bengals kicker missed a game-winning field goal, and another player said something like, and our kicker, what's his name, just misses the game-winning field goal. We're all just like, you don't even know his name? I mean, he had been signed that week, but we're just like, man, insult to injury. Like, you don't even know his name. So, yeah, they're so focused on their role in the team and what is going on. I mean, Traquan should know Latavius Murray's name. That's kind of crazy.
Absolutely.
But it's like a one-track thing. I mean, in training camp, sometimes you have to tell Peyton, like if you ask about a player, sometimes you have to ask about the number too. But I mean, in his defense, like 90 guys, and some of them aren't making the team, so he can't. I mean, he's not gonna remember all of them. But
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but it's funny sometimes. We just think that they care about things more than they probably do, just because they have a million other things to remember that week in regards to the game. But I did not know that. That is very funny. I'm gonna have to go watch that press conference.
Yeah, it was funny.
I have one more. Do you feel that the Saints fans' frustration with Marcus Davenport is valid?
Maybe it's a little over the top, but I get it. I mean, the guy, if you give up that much for a player, you expect him to produce. And I think also what goes into it is there was a long stretch where the Saints' first-round picks weren't producing until recently, and so it probably just brings back bad memories for fans of first-round picks that didn't do anything. I'm trying to remember specifically the years. I mean, well, they've had first-round. They've hit on their first-round picks the last few years for sure.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think
John Sullivan, you had
oh God.
Well, Meacham,
Meacham, it took him a while.
Fans didn't like Ingram for a while.
Yeah, Ingram, it was kind of hit or miss with him for a while. Patrick Robinson, he was a dumpster fire.
Yeah, so I think people remember that.
Still in checks. Love you, P-Rob.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about some of these drafts. I think about the 2014 draft, and I saw randomly, and I'll just think, how did that go so wrong?
Is that the Brandon Cooks and then nothing else draft?
Yeah.
Yes, the entire draft except Cooks was gone by the next year.
Oh, what was his name?
Stanley
Jean-Baptiste.
Is that Ford? Kyrie Ford in the house. Who was like tapped to play like a biopic of he was like scheduled to like star in someone's like biopic of an athlete. I can't remember who the athlete was.
God, that was the weirdest day too. I remember just walking in the locker room and his locker wasn't there. And
his locker wasn't there? Like they completely took his locker out? Well, like not just his things, like his locker was
the nameplate.
Oh, okay.
No, they took the locker out during the trash.
Yeah, he was like sleeping through meetings or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remember walking in and the nameplate wasn't there, and I just pointing out to someone, wait, well, did his locker get moved? Like, why is this guy's locker not here? And it was something else was going on that day. Something to do with Mark Ingram. And I remember I waited like 15 minutes into the press conference to ask Peyton about it. Like, hey, why is Kyrie Ford's locker not there? And what's going on with Ingram? I don't remember what it was. And he just looks at me and he goes, no comment. And then walks away. And we learned that day that Kyrie Ford had just gotten cut. Like, remember how he went on short-term IR and that was the first year you could use it? And then he went from short-term IR to getting cut. Like, he never played. It was, wow. God, that season was so wild.
Dumpster fire.
It was so wild. But anyway, I got us off track. But every time I talk about 2014, I'm just like, how did that all happen the way it did?
Yeah. Did you get a chance to listen to Cam Jordan and Mark Ingram's podcast with Alvin Kamara?
No, and I need to listen to it because every time I saw headlines, it was something I thought I absolutely need to listen to that because that sounds fascinating.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was any breaking news and anything like that. It was just, they were really loose and, obviously saying more than they would say in a typical Saints presser or anything like that. But It was interesting to hear Alvin Kamara talk about his injury last year. I mean, he basically said he was in pain. I mean, he really should not have been playing. He should have been like down for more than the 2 weeks he was down. But he really just like it wasn't a situation where like the coaches were forcing him to play, but he just felt like he had to play just to just because where the Saints were at. They were trying to do something, get to the Super Bowl. And, but it was funny because he commented on, he really, especially with these young players, they really do hear the fans, like especially on social media. So he just talked about how all the fans were like, oh man, what's wrong with Kamara? He's not looking like he's into the game anymore. He needs Mark Ingram and all that stuff. And he's like, I was hurt. Like every snap, like my knee is screaming. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can't even bend my leg. And he's playing through it. I just thought that was interesting. It's just been so good to see how he, like, one of the few bright spots, he has been that bright spot so far this season. Just the way he's looked, just looking healthy, running well. It's just like, give that guy the ball more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, these athletes go through it. I mean, I don't think we know the half of it. I'm just thinking about,
not even close.
It's crazy. The Tyrod Taylor story. It's just, I'm just thinking. I mean, I can't. The thought of how painful that must have been, and then he was gonna try to play, and it blows my mind.
That was the part of the story that was kind of overlooked.
Wait, he was still gonna try to play with the what?
Well, I think they didn't know what it was. I might be telling the story wrong, but didn't they find out during the game, like he started having chest pain or before the game and had to be taken to the hospital?
Yeah, right before the game, he was getting ready to play, and he's like, man, my chest is like on fire right now. Like, well, yeah, it's punctured. Your lungs are punctured.
That's wild, man.
I'm like, this poor guy. I really hope it doesn't. I mean, I hope he doesn't destroy his career. Just because that's why they try so hard not to ever leave the field because the second you do, there's always someone right there that's going to take your job away. And if he loses his job because of this, it's just
I'm glad you bring that up.
But
American Giant makes great clothing, sweatshirts, jeans, and more right here in the U.S. Visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code STAPLE20.